Okay, so guys, my laptop died. I'm using my old laptop now. So I guess this is part 2 continuation. There's still so much left to say about this topic. You know, to kind of simplify what I'm saying is that I'm saying people have a known expectation of what comes after life, okay? We're these creatures that are at this existential, we're like this existence that is giving providing an opportunity for there to be experienced. This is why health is really important. But at the same time, we're this experience that is moving the existence. All right, this is very important. Excuse me, to continue. It's like, what do we do when at the end of life we're entering an unknown portal, right? So we got to cultivate understanding of where we are so far. So the value of knowledge is to comprehend the unknown, but it leads to an infinite exploration. So really the purpose of conscious human life is to have the natural human being continue its journey of infinite exploration of knowledge, right? So what it is that we have to give immortality to the scientists. You know, this is very important. You know, we need an immortal scientific effort, you know, but at the same time, we need the wisdom of eternity. And the wisdom of eternity does not mean that we have to be artificial. See, the thing is, like, we're this creature that was being influenced by its natural environment, but as the human being stepped out of nature, it created an unnatural civilization, and inside that unnatural civilization, it created an even more unnatural civilization called cyberspace. And so this artificialness of cyberspace is going to shift the psychology of the future generations to feel as if they were born in an unnatural environment first, then nature. So the future generations are literally tilting and shifting. All the stuff that was naturally accessible, I think this is what's being lost every generation, right? You know, there's this saying that they say, like, hard times create strong men, strong men create easy times times create weak men create hard times create strong men, something in these lines, right? So what does that mean? That means it's literally a sine wave, right? So we're living at that time. Exactly, anybody who's alive in 2022, you are so blessed because you are on the verge of both worlds. We are literally at that point where the human species has enough information to realize it can never have enough information. So it has to readjust life to an experiential value, and this is when the Raja Yoga becomes a Bhakti Yogi. And you know, there was a time where I was like, wait a minute, everybody is acting like they don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we're all living for it. Isn't that hilarious? You know, and it's ignorance of the outcome that causes us to become hopeless. Why is the human species here? Why are there 8 billion creatures freaking out on a rock in the middle of nowhere? And the value is they freak out until they realize it's unnecessary. And so this is, I think, what the cycle of evolution for the human psyche is that the brain simulates senses of self, and the attention tunnels through them all, and the new day comes, and at some point the person's like, all right, I'm already here, might as well get to master and cultivate what this intelligence is. Okay, there's a lot of people in the self-help industry, and for me, there's a reason I'm giving these. I decided to give these talks for free. You know, so many people have been like, okay, you know, it's like, you know, even myself, it's kind of like that hilarious thing of like the angel and the devil on the person's shoulder, and which one does he listen to? For me, I realized that the quality of the human mind is way more important than just a feeling of one individual. So for me, my strategy is I'm alive for 100 years. What's the fastest way? You know, I would be impressed, and I think this would be a historic moment, if we have all the writers in the self-help industry give their books for free. I think if this revolution happens, then everybody is going to, like, next level of authorship is going to occur. To me, I don't know what it is. There's something about life that is like, sure, we need to survive, but what are we surviving for? Are we surviving for the greatness of one person? What's the point of being the most efficient person in an inefficient world? What is the purpose of that? You just realize, man, I gotta make the world efficient. This is what's happening to all the billionaires and trillionaires on planet Earth. They're being like, holy shit, I made it out of hell, but I'm still seeing it, right? So this is why philanthropy becomes the outcome, because really when you reach any power archetype, whether it's in a game or whether it's in society and civilization, whoever you are, when you reach the top of the hierarchy, you're going to realize you are the top of the hierarchy. When you are the top of the hierarchy, imagine you're the greatest chef on the planet, okay? Or I don't know, the greatest dancer, or the greatest soccer player on the planet, okay? You've reached the top of the spectrum, the top of the hierarchy. Now you are left in defining the top of the hierarchy, and innovation is left. You know, for me, I look at like for example, there was the World Cup recently. You know, congratulations to Argentina, and condolences to Portugal. You know, personally, I wanted Portugal to win. But I don't watch that much, football, so, I play it more than I watch it. I've played soccer more than I've watched soccer, like hours-wise. I don't know what else to say other than we're all headed towards the unknown, so we got to find some strategy to deal with the unknown now. What spirituality is how something unknown moves in the moment, and the human being is left to interpret that unknown. My understanding so far of reality is that it's an opportunity to see what we are, because it's like when we're born, we're getting to see ourselves for the first time. Imagine somebody sees like Superman save someone and they're inspired. They're like, oh my God, Superman saved someone in front of me. Imagine you're an average Joe and that's like a spiritual experience for you. Like Superman saving you or something. What I'm trying to say is that Sometimes we appreciate something outside of ourselves more than something within ourselves. But when we realize if something outside of ourselves has had a potential for greatness, then we can beat as well. When we look at religious systems, they have these main archetypal figures in them. The concept of prophets, and the prophets were human beings that had managed to perfect something in the human dimension, even though they were still imperfect in the divine dimension. You know, not imperfect, but I would say it's just this notion that human beings are psychologically living through different archetypes. And this archetype, for every one of us, there's a personal value system, and then there's an impersonal value system. What really education is trying to change how your mind. It's literally the cost of modern education is that instead of learning to think, thought structures are just being fed, right? Rather than curiosity being the teacher, right? It's like there's teachers, you know. That's the issue. You know, it's like the questions are not, it's like they're giving answers without the students asking the questions, and they're wondering why the student isn't learning in class. You know, to me, this is the flaw of the modern educational system, right? The question is very important, you know, for a human being to learn to wonder about reality. That's the intelligence that requires to ask a question. But to have an answer for reality is like, all right, I'm just gonna, stare really closely at this painting and never move my eyes and feel truth is this moment. But it's beyond. There's more to say, but I need a few minute intermission, guys. I'll be back. Okay, back to it. Honestly, I'm just saying at some point in life, I just started to think that I'm in an unknown world more than the world is more unknown than known. And what do we do with this as a conscious creature? So as a conscious creature in a world, in a sort of interface, like what the mind is like the interface. It's like the software, and the body is the hardware, and the soul is the user of this computer, user of this evolutionary opportunity to be a sort of unique individual, right? For me, it's like just because right now the species is worshipping individualism, excuse me, because the species is worshipping individualism, I am pointing towards a sort of non-dual collectivity when it comes to the nature of the future mind. But it's honestly a sine wave. There's phases in life where individuals feel more important than the collective, and then there's phases in life where the collective's more important than the individual. We're literally in that point where individualism has experienced its inefficiency, and only collective, it's like individual efficiency is left, and individual efficiency cannot be complete unless there's collective efficiency. You see, you cannot just be an advanced being in an unadvanced world. It doesn't even make sense. So the only way you can be an advanced being is if the world is advanced. So once a person goes beyond, they call this, it's like the difference between the archetype of the Buddha and the archetype of the Bodhisattva. The Buddha was someone who had freed himself from himself. He had attained self-enlightenment, right? But the Bodhisattvas had already attained self-enlightenment, had freed himself from the realities of the individual, and was now living in the reality, was living for the realities of the collective, right? And that's what I'm saying. Something that has been missing from the human species and from the history books is that there has never been a global honor. We have never had this collective honor. Imagine this honor being beyond, because what our opinions on the world are subjective positions. So what does that mean? That means there's an ultimate great subjective position that has not yet been collectively activated. This great subjective position is the human species, and what that means is that if you are someone who is alone, or if you're the center of the crowd, just understand you're participating in the journey of a species in a cosmos. Do you understand? We think it's just on our life has to be defined based on Earth. The whole cosmos is here. You know, who says the Andromeda Galaxy isn't listening to this podcast? I want to read some mystical quotes for the viewers. So I want to read for the viewers quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita for me is like a transcendental codex. So the book says, sorry, this is a different thing. Oh, okay, it's quotes from people about the Bhagavad Gita, but also some quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. Henry David Thoreau. In the morning I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, since whose composition years of the gods have elapsed. And in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seem puny and trivial, and I doubt if that philosophy is not to be referred to a previous state of existence, so remote is its sublimity from our conceptions. I lay down the book and go to my well for water, and lo, there I meet the servant of the Brahmin, priest of Brahma and Vishnu and Indra, who still sits in his temple on the Ganges reading the Vedas, or dwells at the root of a tree with his crust and water jug. I meet his servant come to draw water from his master, and our buckets, as it were, grate together in the same well. The pure Walden water is mingled with the sacred water of the Ganges. Exactly, because mysticism is for those individuals. They say when the student is ready, the master appears in martial arts. In mysticism, when the individual is ready, they experience life as a collective mind. That's the experiential, let's say, a poetically higher level tutelage, higher mind tutelage. So there's different ways. You see, some people want to learn new things as an empty vessel, and then there's some people who they try to remember. In mysticism, they call it your divine remembrance. So the yogi is trying to remember what it was outside of space-time before it's identifying only as an entity inside space-time. So anyways, let me read some quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. I think that's a better approach. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, whatever has happened for good. Whatever is happening is also for good. Whatever will happen shall also be good. What have you lost that you cry for? What did you bring that you have lost? Why did you create that was destroyed? What did you create that was destroyed? What you have taken has been from here. What you gave has been given here. What belongs to you today belonged to someone yesterday and will be someone else's tomorrow. Change is the law of the universe. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says one should lift up oneself by oneself. One should not let oneself get depressed or defeated, because the self is the friend of oneself and the self is the enemy of oneself. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, why do you worry unnecessarily? Whom do you fear? Who can kill you? The soul is neither born nor dies. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I read this before, but I'll read it again. It says, whatever happened was good. What's happening is it's going well. Whatever will happen will also be good. You need not have any regrets for the past. Do not worry for the future. Live in present. But the present's content is the future. So, we got to be present. It's like from a present state of mind, we got to we realize that the human species deserves an advanced civilization. It's the ultimate resolution. It's pretty much, we want to see how great the human being is. And if we ask ourselves what's the greatest invention of the human being, it's the greatest system that is going to govern the possibility of the inventiveness. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, let a man, oh my god, I read this. Okay, here, I'll just read it. Let a man lift himself by his own self alone. Let him not lower himself, for this self alone is the friend of oneself, and this self alone is the enemy of oneself. Fear not what is not real, never was and never will be. What is real always was and cannot be destroyed. People will talk about your disgrace forever. To the honored, dishonor is worse than death. The mind acts like an enemy for those who do not control it. Wow. There you go. There you go, folks. Anybody who's suffering, it meant something mental. It's because you haven't realized that you can control yourself before being defined by your unconscious behavior. Sometimes I wonder if there are truly spiritual people, or if there's truly spiritual people, or if spirituality is the fashion of, the changing mind. Is the mystery of the world important for people, or are we just being like, all right, whatever, it's something, let me just have fun here while it lasts? Is that the strategy, or is there something more here? Is there something beyond what we believe from just our biological eyes? I appreciate my own existence, but I understand the human position is not a macrocosmic position. Because we're the small, you know what it is? It's like the Raja Yogi, the one who's intellectually trying to solve the mystery of reality, suddenly realizes it's too big. That means if we wanted to come up with an accurate, measured analysis of what's going on in the world, we'd have to index the whole cosmos. What does that mean? That means we'd have to know the edge of the unobservable universe, and then be able to have that total observable universal event, in some sense, to be capable of measurement. What I'm trying to say is that a bunch of creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere opened their eyes, saw this bizarre geometric situation, and then they created language. We saw emptiness, we saw the void, we saw the meaninglessness, and we were like, what do? We're going to start living in our own worlds. And so language became an important technology. You can say that language was necessary, that the creature was alone and it had to create a companion for itself as itself. So you see, it's as if sometimes I wonder, what is the evolutionary reason for friendship? right? Sometimes I look at nature and I wonder, should every individual act in accordance to their instincts and their inner reality, or should it be in some sense that we must have the consideration to walk with our world, not just pilot, not just run through it. I know that the human species has an incredible internal capability. I know that the people of the world are going to get bored of their suffering, and they're going to get bored of how slow and inefficient the outer realms are, and there's going to occur revolutions of psychological leaps into better outcomes of what the world can be. Right? And you know what it is? It's just this, we've reached that point in human history where it's hilarious. People should be grateful that there's violent video games. Because violence is eventually in the future going to move into cyberspace, and people are going to realize that we didn't evolve 4.5 billion years to just punch each other in the face. Do you know? We evolved 4.5 billion years because we have access to an additional dimension of sight, and really to be a modern human being is to be an organized mind in a chaotic cosmos. That's really what it means. I think everybody is indirectly preparing for the unknown, and I think the unknown, this was like a spiritual experience for me, where imagine somebody with a sort of, imagine my mind was had a sort of mechanistic code, okay? And so this code was in some sense like a sort of self-loathing program to deteriorize the self, right? So imagine somebody gets depressed and they're taking out their depression on themselves, or somebody gets upset or angry and they, instead of the husband hitting the wife, the husband hits himself, imagine, in front of the wife, even though that's both cases are messed up, but I'm saying it's where is the anger directed? Where is the anger released? Should others be responsible for our state of mind, or should we be responsible for our state of mind and considerate of others? Right? Sometimes I think about the human species, and I think about when is it going to ask itself, what's the point of it all? What's the point of generations of human beings opening their eyes, living through the world, and in some sense, to me, it's how many unhappy generations and how many happy generations? The most important thing, the biggest thing they don't tell people is that happiness is a choice. It's a choice of perspective. That's it. The person was suffering in the shade until they took a few steps into the sunlight. Simple moments can give us access to incredible complex realities. This is why even Leonardo da Vinci says simplicity is the most ultimate sophistication. What we're going to see is the advanced human being. It's like the polymorphization of the species. What does that mean? That means most likely, I predict this, in the next 100 to 200 years, there's going to be human beings who are going to access superintelligence. These human beings who access superintelligence will end up being in political power systems. When they enter political power systems, they will restructure reality. But to me, the ultimate philosophical conclusion of any sort of intelligence associated with power is literally this view that once you reach ultimate power, you have no need to express that power. You see, it's another reason why God is invisible and in some sense present but uninterfering until needed, So it's this idea that imagine there's a being in a world, and this being becomes so advanced that its power is capable of moving everything in the cosmos. So imagine right now you have a power to move your biological body, but imagine you had a power to move every object in the cosmos. Every object you imagine in the cosmos, your consciousness became its body. Right? So imagine you became the eyes of existence, self-reflecting. what I want to tell the viewers is this, that in the future, we don't know what's going to happen. But the ultimatum of power is benevolence. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that those people who are truly great, those people who are truly powerful, truly, okay, their power is something that they don't search. It's like, here, I'll give you an example, right? Like, why are human beings trying to get enlightened? Why aren't human beings trying to be human beings? Because we already are. So similarly, if you were an enlightened being, you wouldn't try to be enlightened. If you were an advanced being, there would be no need to display the advancement. So we can say any external expression of power is insecurity, right? But at the same time, there's a geometrical coded series of events that are going to happen on this planet. Okay, that means to me, it's like there isn't just the karma of the human being, there's the karma of every shape and manifestation. Like, I'll give you an example. Right now I'm looking at my steering wheel. The steering wheel is circular, right? I'm gonna wonder in the future, why can't we have a steering wheel that's like, imagine it's like a triangle or something. Or why can't we just make it like a cross? Or honestly, why not like something that's equivalent to like Q-tips on your fingertips, and you just move your fingertips and you can just move the vehicle, you know? What I'm trying to say is there is a karma to the geometry of reality. This karma means cause and effect. The whole point of the idea of karma is that you have caused your own manifestation. When it comes to the nature of mind, there has to be a responsibility for the world, right? People who say, like, here, look at how hilarious is this. We have certain people debating whether there is such a thing as free will or there's such a thing as divine will, right? Like, some people are saying, no, we have free will. Some people are saying, no, there's the divine will, everything, God is moving everything, or nature is moving everything, right? And then at the same time, we have people saying, yo, man, it's like, before you preach free will, it's like, let's hold on a minute, and it's as if some people believe the free will doesn't exist, right? They believe that we are like a unique hallucination of an elemental reality, which I think is, it's like that's how far we saw. What it is that it's the nature of the human mind, okay? What we notice is that physical stuff is turning into mental stuff. Mental stuff is turning into cyber stuff. Cyber stuff is turning into immortal stuff for something that has access to all these dimensions. To be a human being is like to be able to cultivate mastery or maintain the self to maintain your biological self, to maintain yourself in a biological dimension. At the same time, when it comes to your mind and psyche and the cognitive system, it's how you maintain yourself in a subjective dimension. Right, so there's a dimension where we're an object, where we have to be responsible for the meaning of that dimension. A dimension where we're functioning as a subject, right? Like, I'm conscious, like I'm using the archetype Mr.Within to speak and all this, right? So what I'm trying to get to is that when will it become fascinating to ask, what does our species deserve? And really what it is that the strategy of the human species should not be a presumption of knowledge, but should be in some sense being like, there's this ancient militaristic saying where they say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And if I asked what's the enemy of every human being, and I'm just saying enemy just for the sake of archetypal value here, but I'll say it this way: when I'm saying enemy, it's like that what is an enemy to all human beings is the unknown portal of what we call like the transition of life. Right? So we're all in an unknown world as an unknown being, masked in knowledge, walking towards an unknown portal. Right? So it's important to wonder about why you are found in the design and the existence you are. You see, when we compare our reality with other realities, we get emotional about what could have been. But when we are just left with our own mind, we're responsible to figure everything out from the beginning. Right? I remember, like, I'll be honest, when I was in school, I was such a lazy student. I would get good grades, but when there were these, like, exams that were like worth, like, I don't know, like 2% of the grade or something like that, right? It's as if like I was willing to just write what I saw. But there came a point in my life where I realized, wait a minute, I'm going to enter the unknown alone. So I have to comprehend the nature of reality alone. And once I comprehend the nature of reality alone, I realize that there's an opportunity for a self among many selves. What does that mean? That means life is not just an opportunity for an individual to achieve something, but it's an opportunity for a species to be mobile and to act. I remember when I was a kid, like, there were these Power Rangers shows where the Power Rangers all connected into this one giant robot. And to me, I'm seeing the same thing where the human species, it's as if greatness is going to meet greatness, and suddenly it's going to be a great restructuring of the human civilization. You see, it's as if we have been denied our future because the past made us feel unworthy. But this is what I'm telling you, dear viewer. We have one lifetime to see what the most advanced state of the human species is. There is no greater journey, like, this is the mythos and the ethos of modernity that's been missing, right? It's a legend. The legend of advanced civilizations has archaically revived, I kind of feel relieved. The species, the songs of the advanced civilization will be heard soon. What I'm doing now in 2022 as, like, I think maybe the only person on the planet, like, I think in the year 2222, there might be human beings who are giving way more than 10,000 talks. Like, there might be people giving millions of talks throughout their lifetime through some sort of advanced AI surveillance compilation of their behavior and action and whatnot, right? For me, I'm one of those people that when I saw Tony Stark, right, like the Iron Man movie, so many people are fascinated by the Iron Man suit. They're like, yo, that's so cool. Imagine I could buy an Iron Man suit, But for me, the most fascinating part of the Iron Man movie was Jarvis when Iron Man was building the Iron Man suit. That accompanying AI assistant, for me, was like a marvel. If I could be born in any, like, that's one of those things where I would like, if there was a time travel machine, I'd probably go somewhere where there was a very advanced, like, note-taking system, But anyways, what I'm saying is that you're a natural organ, most likely whoever you are listening, you're a natural organism. Civilization is an unnatural event. Inside civilization, language is also an unnatural event. We are multidimensional in the sense that there is an inner life that nobody gets to see except us, and there's an outer life where everybody sees except us. That's the thing about life. It's designed for us not to be able to see our face. Like, mirrors are like a cheat code. If life was a video game, mirrors are 100% cheat codes or glitches. So anyways, I guess what Mr. Within is saying is, dear viewer, go find this is the only type of kind of exercise this is one of the Mr. Within exercises. Like I recommend viewers do this, right? If anybody like honors this channel and wants to know what I recommend they should do. For me, writing has had an incredible for me, like there's something divine about writing, okay? And this is Mr. Within's think of it this way exercise for the viewers. Go buy a stack of printer paper, right? Get rid of the wrapper and all of this. Place that stack of printer paper at the center of a table that you pass by often, and put a new pen, a pen that you buy or something, put a completely new pen on that stack of piece of paper, and do not use that stack of piece of paper and touch it. Treat it like a sacred relic, and only touch that. Even if somebody calls and you need paper, don't write on that stack of paper, okay, with the pen on the top of it at the center of the table, right? And only write when you get an idea that is so important that if you don't write it down, you're gonna miss it. And only write then. And whoever you are, I'm telling you, you're going to comprehend so much about the nature of your mind. Because what can we really do? We're a creature of expression. We're expressing ourselves in reality, and we get the feedback, and we just grow, right? Like nobody says this, but everybody is kind of struggling with this sense of like perfection, to the degree that the founder of surrealism and art, Salvador Dali, said, "Do not fear perfection; you'll never reach it." Right? It's very strange. It's like we're trying to be our best in a world that is unknown. And for me, the idea was like, man, what's the solution? And the solution was advancement in all dimensions. And that was the light bulb that, the light bulb of the advanced civilization for me. I could totally see that it's like we wonder about what's the most advanced state of an individual system. Then we wonder about what's the most advanced state of a collective system. And the most advanced state of a collective system is the most advanced state of all the individuals. You see, it's as if once you've experienced your own greatness, the greatness of the world remains. We live for the world because we know we are beyond it. The parent takes care of the child. The child doesn't understand, the parent does. The ancient eyes of consciousness understand this reality, the new forms and shapes of reality. It's kind of like we are very blessed. We are living in the eyes of a collective field of guidance. All the species is, our survival is not just based on the organism. Consciousness is like how how space became the mind of a body. This is why, prana was seen as life force, the breath. So anyways, thanks for listening, guys. And life's an incredible opportunity. I mean, that's something that, at some point whoever you are, you'll realize like there's like you're a human being that has never existed before. How can you compare yourself to anything? This is the power of the mind, that it is bestowed with its own world. My attitude to human beings changed when I realized behind every person's eyes there is a sort of intelligence that is tunneled through various self-simulations, right? People say ageism isn't important, but it's like there's a shadow side, there's a dark side, and there's a bright side. The bright side of ageism is in some sense the wisdom of journeying through life. You see, when we know civilization's advancing, when the youth honor the past, because the past got them here. For me, if the past generations if the future generations are smart, they will honor their past generations, even if the past generations don't deserve it. If they're smart. If the future of the human species is smart, it will understand, how far the species, carried the torch of consciousness. For me, let me tell you what the beauty of living to being a member of a human species is. The beautiful thing about the human species is you're allowed to care for it because you're a part of it. And this is what they don't tell, a lot of people, even students in, let's say, studying politics in universities. They don't tell them, where is the benevolence in a system that thinks cruelty is victory. You see, sure, guerrilla strength, brute force, it's like imagine a buffalo charging at a bulldozer, going at a fast speed, right? It's like, which one wins? The unnatural destroys the natural. So the natural has to be very conscious of what sort of reality it's functioning in and moving in. And every person has a unique ability. My view is that every person, their DNA, because it's different, it's like they're a different instrument. So imagine, imagine the whole universe, everybody was a martial artist with their own style of martial arts. Now I'm saying every person has a different mind, which is their own style of looking at the world. And what your true voice and your writer's voice is how you see the world before you were told what the world is. And when you find that voice, you discover a self that is free before it has to be. Do not fear the unknown. It is the greatest opportunity. For me, I look at lesser species like birds and squirrels, and I'm like, they don't even know the concept of the unknown exists. They're just like hunger, food. It's like, reproduction, It's just an instinctual program. It's bizarre. When I look at lesser species, they're just like loops. They're just like they're just cyclical entities. Right? But human consciousness has had an ability to go beyond the system, beyond the rhythms of the psyche, beyond the rhythms of belief. Right? The human species has access to such a greater advancement that we were like, holy shit, who knew the power of the frontal lobe? For me, it's there will come a time in the future where every human's, in an advanced civilization, the first thing the advanced civilization would say, imagine there's an effort towards an advanced civilization, and in an enlightened society, somebody's like, there's somebody who's struggling financially, and the advanced civilization says, we will give you $1 million if you just write a book about your honest experience of life so far, and allow the advanced civilization to put this in the great library of human names. That meeting with the unknown, the experience I had was, for me, it was a bit, I don't want to say, I'll be honest, it was scary. But it was scary in the sense that my persona was not in charge of the moment. And when one experiences humbling moments like this, they realize that, okay, it's not just the human species on a planet, but it is an unknown life force moving through the known dimensions of reality. So we are privileged to witness the spirit of the realm as our karma of the whole world. I'm going to read some more quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita says we have the power to be our own friend or the folly to become our own enemy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says one can become whatever one wants to be if one constantly contemplates on the object of desire with faith. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says it is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. Exactly. Exactly. Why? Because we are here to be us in the moment. This is the honor and appreciation, something that it took me a while to establish, but I learned to become happy when others become victorious. Because it's as if something like the energy of the moment is increasing overall, right? It's like raindrops in the ocean. The ocean's expansion is inevitable. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says wrong thinking is the only problem in life. Wow. What it means and what is thinking. Thinking is ultimately your worldview, how you're looking at life. We can choose to, for me, sometimes I entertain it as like the white eagle archetype, right? Like the eagle with like a starlight glow, right? So it's this archetype, like the individual's consciousness can look at reality from the branch, but it can fly into the sky and see the whole collective at once. That's the power of the soul. It is beyond, the mind's karma. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "There is neither this world nor the world beyond, nor happiness for the one who doubts." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "You have control over doing your respective duty only, but no control or claim over the results. The fruits of work should not be your motive, and you should never be inactive." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "Perform your obligatory duty, because action is indeed better than inaction." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "Man is made of his belief. As he believes, so he is." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "Be and live in whatever you want to be." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. We are made of our thoughts. We are molded by our thoughts." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "No one who does good work will ever come to a bad end, either here or in the world to come." In the Bhagavad Gita, it says lust, anger, and greed are the 3 doors to hell. Oh my God, somebody say this to Las Vegas, In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I think really what the doors to hell are is when you allow the inefficiency to be easier than the efficiency. Bhagavad Gita says, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, through meditation, the higher self is experienced. Your higher self is your whole moment, guys. It's how you're being your whole moment and your body is being a part of it. So the mind is experiencing itself as the whole moment, as the whole world, but the body's being in the whole world that the mind is experiencing itself as. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, death is as sure for that which is born, as birth is for that which is dead. Therefore grieve not for what is inevitable. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, just as the soul acquires a childhood body, a youth body, and an old age body during this life, similarly the soul acquires another body after death. This should not delude the wise. My God. It's like I gotta comb my hair in the afterlife. You kidding me? Blessings, guys. There's a peace beyond thought here. Shri Krishna says, every creature in the universe is subject to rebirth, Arjuna, except the one who is united with me. Yeah, it's another way of saying if before you die you experience yourself as a collective being, then it's impossible, because what can die? Like there's the self that had a fear of death is like an unknown viewer of an object and subject just moving in accordance to the rhythm of manifestation, right? So at some point we're going to look at everybody on the planet and be like, is that which is causing the animation behind every person's eyes the the same moment of intelligence? And if it is, it's another way of saying like a singular being disguised itself as infinite beings, right? Or it would be as the poet Rumi 700 years ago, he says, like, truth is like a mirror that is shattered, but every piece of the shattered mirror reflects the truth. In the Bhagavad Gita it says, the soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. That's what's up. In the Bhagavad Gita it says, peace is reserved for the worthy. When you offer peace to evil, it throws it right back. That's messed up. If a Dharma wants war, Dharma will give it war. I think what the thing is that it's just the nature of what the consciousness feels it deserves. If the outer realms has to give you permission, the reason a person rejects the outer realms is because they're not done deciding in the inner realms. But when you decide in the inner realms, then the outer realms, the karma can occur properly in the outer realms. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says everything happens for a reason. It says no matter what happens in your life, good or bad, it happens for a reason. Maybe you don't realize it at the time, but whatever has happened is due to some reason, and you will get to know the reason very soon. Oh my God. So all the things that we don't understand why they happened, we're going to understand soon. So don't be upset over things, because life has many better things to offer. Yeah, because who knows, right? Like in my youth, I wanted to be a soccer player. You believe that? You believe that? And little did I know that I would be scoring, different kind of goals. The goals turned into the subjective, as if the mystery of what the world was more fascinating than a repeating game. In the Bhagavad Gita it says, a gift is pure when it is given from the heart to the right person at the right time and at the right place, and when we expect nothing in return. Exactly. In the Bhagavad Gita it says, what the outstanding person does, others will try to do. The standards such people create will be followed by the whole world. You know why? Because we get bored. What else can we do other than innovate and realize that it's a design problem? Right? A lot of human suffering is because we're not updating the first prototype that our ancestors left for us as a gift. The gift of our ancestors is the quality of life we're living now. Okay? In the Bhagavad Gita it says, no work stains a man who is pure, who is in harmony, who is master of his life, whose soul is one with the soul of all. You see, guys, it's that easy. Enlightenment is that easy. You just realize that your soul is present where the world's soul is. So it's as if it's like, is my soul the world happening, or is in some sense, my soul separate from the soul of what happens in the world? Like right now, people on other parts of the planet, I have no idea what they're experiencing, right? But could it be that behind the eyes of both of us, we are the planet's blessing? In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, the mind is fickle. It won't obey you. Every time the mind misbehaves, use your discretionary intellect to bring it back to the equanimous position. And that's the discrimination between inner realms and outer realms. What I've termed as Mr. Within's inner realm and inner and outer realmism. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, left to itself, the mind goes on repeating the same old habitual patterns of personality. By training the mind, however, anyone can learn to step in and change old ways of thinking. That is the central principle of yoga. Yeah, and the way you can change the thinking is that you have to actually reverse engineer. So something that people think these yogis just meditating in the forest are like simple people, these guys are internally reverse engineering how they're being an archetypal entity. And they're returning to a point where their attention is non-dual, and when it's non-dual, it's dehumanized. So these super enlightened yogis are these beings where behind their eyes there's no longer a fragmentation of a self and a world. So they've noticed that there's some force in the moment witnessing the self and the world simultaneously. You know, it's like it's as if something inconceivable is watching the moment, but our soul and God seem to be in the same position. You know, it's this strange view where it's as if from a religious lens, it's like God is looking through man's soul, you know, at a world, that it created for itself. The Bhagavad Gita says, never give up on yourself. The Bhagavad Gita says one should strive and employ oneself to uplift oneself. One should never dishonor oneself. The self is one's friend as well as one's enemy. Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of mind. It's like there's this, imagine there's a subtle karma and then there's a very gross karma, you know? So what I mean by this is that imagine like your thoughts have a karma, but their karma is very short-lived. Like it's a micro karma, right? And when you act, it becomes more of a macro karmic event, right? That means if somebody was to analyze the karma, like I have a twin, so imagine there's these two twins, and one of them is shy, and one of them is introverted, and one of them is extroverted, okay? And if we were to comprehend the nature of their karma, we would see that the extroverted would have a way more roller coaster like karma, but the introvert would have a very more single pointed direct line karma. As if the less you do, the less like can happen, because nothing's done, right? So it's like the purpose of our mind is to lead to action, but the purpose of our understanding is to find the correct action. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, reshape yourself through the power of your will. Never let yourself be degraded by self-will. This will is the only friend of the self, and the will is the only enemy of the self. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises, from anger delusion arises, and from delusion bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Wow, this is it, guys, this is it. This quote is perhaps one of the most important quotes ever. One last quote. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. I'll keep reading. It says, ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. Sometimes in certain monotheistic religions, they say that the reason Adam and Eve fell was due to a sort of impurity. So piety and purity is the way back into. It's like the purity and piety is like the cloak, that covers man into being worthy to going up the staircase to heaven in monotheistic religion. Anyways, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says the self-controlled soul who moves amongst sense objects free from either attachment or repulsion, he wins eternal peace. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says detachment is not that you own nothing. Detachment is that nothing owns you. Wow. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says through selfless service, you will always be fruitful and find the fulfillment of your desires. That means if you do something without an inner individualistic expectation, there is no karma because you weren't an individual self doing it. So it's another way of saying selfless service is the most advanced state of mind. So a selfless service would mean a win-win situation. So imagine good and evil were like, wait a minute, we can both win, and so evil goes into cyberspace and is evil to fiction, and so in non-fiction is kind and fiction is evil. That's the power of cyberspace. So wars are going to happen in cyberspace instead of millions of people dying in reality. You know, I think there should come this law that all the nuclear bombs on the planet should be converted into some technology, energy, some sort of energy, some sort of energy to contribute to the civilization's advancement or something. You know, or what is it like nukes should be used to, like, you know, try to change the atmosphere of other planets to make it habitable for Earth or something. Do you know? We just need a species that understands it's very rare to be a civilized mind in a chaotic world, you know, in a chaotic cosmos. In Greek mythology, the world started from chaos and then order arose. And one of the earliest forms of order was time. But anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I'll read one last quote. In the Bhagavad Gita says, happiness is a state of mind that has nothing to do with the external world. I'll read. Okay, here, I'll just keep reading. Bhagavad Gita says, when the family is ruined, the timeless laws of family duty perish, and when duty is lost, chaos overwhelms the family. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, if you want to see the brave, look to those who can return love. If you want to see heroic, look to those who can forgive. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, when a person responds to the joys and sorrows of others as though they were his own, he or she has attained the highest spiritual union. Yeah, as if you're seeking collective victory after you've attained individual victory, which individual victory is already attained. Because the greatest potential of the individual is the collective victory. The Bhagavad Gita says we're kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, whatever happened was good. I read this. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, still your mind in me, still your intellect in me, and without doubt you will be united with me forever. But who is... Okay, so the Bhagavad Gita, guys, is when the avatar of God called Krishna is speaking to this archer in the battlefield. So God is saying this, the avatar of God is saying this to this archer. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Yeah, that means it's like in a known world with endless, infinite known desires, it's like having faith in the inconceivable presence of the whole thing being. Right? So when it says such a great soul is very rare, it could also say such a grateful soul is very rare. That means you become grateful that we are in the presence of not the might and greatness of just the human species, but an interstellar stage. The stars whisper in our ears in the form of like engineers and designers, you know, trying to build sky cities, you know. If somebody was like, Mr.Within, what do you want for Christmas? I'd be like, sky cities, you know. It's like there was never overpopulation was an illusion, you know, when we can live in the sky. Like we've reached the time where the whole thing about Mr.Within is like the archaic revival of the castles in the sky. But anyways, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, among all kinds. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate, because time kills everything. Okay, that's heavy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, whenever Dharma declines and the purpose of life is forgotten, I manifest myself on earth. I am born in every age to protect the good, to destroy evil, and to reestablish Dharma. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I am the beginning, middle, and end of creation. You know, imagine somebody imagines like a fictional novel-like universe in their mind, and a character in that fictional novel universe in their inner realm suddenly notices that they have invented them. right? So the character's like, God, why am I here? And the person's like, yo, just have faith. I'm the beginning, middle, and end, right? That means if our thoughts wondered why we thought them, you know, it would be the same thing as man wondering why man existence is existing. The mystery of reality is beyond our perception, dear viewers. And that's when everybody's rendered as an explorer. It's as if like the person's like, great, you pursued knowledge, great, now what are we left with? We're left to realizing that in every branch of knowledge, in any field that anybody can progress, you're going to realize there is a winning new thought. And so it's like once you learn everything about a topic, then you reach a point where you're like, what else? And then you see all the stuff that hasn't been said about the topic. And so once the mind is content with knowledge, then it's left with learning from the unknown, right? So it's like some people need external gurus, I guess, you know, to like enlighten them, like, holy shit, like you know, like some people are like that, right? And for me, to me, it's as if like, okay, for how long do you want to learn from a temporary external world, rather than realizing that it's an unknown intelligent moment? Like, what can the guru say? Like, just like look in the mirror, bro, you know, like gurus are just like how minds are just you know, seeing potential. I just want to see what an advanced civilization looks like, guys. You know, that's it. I think it's the greatest idea on earth. And, you know, at least somebody, you know, attempted to talk about it. We'll see how far this idea goes. So, if there's questions the viewers can ask. I don't know what else I can say about an unknown world. Pretty much it's an opportunity to use reality. Okay, for me, sometimes when there's a sort of emotional weight, I realize it's as if I'm not looking at the moment properly. And when I wonder about myself, I'm like, man, when I look at my past, I see how I could have undone all my mistakes. But when I look at the future, I see all that I could do. That could be, in some sense, like what is the purpose of life? To discover the new. We log into the conscious waking state every day. And the meaning of life is what we see out of it. Michelangelo has this quote. He says, I saw the angel in the stone and I set it free. Human eyes are opening to the world. They're seeing a world and then they're seeing a meaning to it, and that meaning is becoming a value to live for, which becomes purpose. What I have realized is that beyond the path of intellect is the path of love. And the path of love is how a collective being is accepting it's a collective being. That means when you care for the world as a collective being, your consciousness is not separating anything, right? That means the greater dimensions have nothing to lose, and the lesser dimensions are already lost. It is those on earth who have the opportunity, you know, to not just stare at the skies, but to live there one day. There's a subscribe question for the viewers to respond to in the comment section. What do you think about it? Is the meaning of life to prepare for the unknown? I think it is. Why? Because the unknown is great. The unknown is the context to the conceptual knowledge. So what does that mean? That means when we talk about confidence of what? A creature that is happening for the first time, and to learn to study our mind. If somebody was like, Mr.Within, what's a way to study your mind? I'll be like, heard of meditation? Meditation was an ingenious technique, right? And there's a type of artificial meditation where you're trying to repeat something as a robot. And then there's a type of meditation where you hadn't even thought about meditation, but you just get this feeling to be super silent and still, and you sit down wherever you are and you just watch what happens as your mind. See, the whole idea is it's like we're this existential event and this experiential event simultaneously happening. So we have a choice. Excuse me. So we have a choice in which way to value the moment more. I have realized that because I'm temporary, I have one lifetime to live as a free being. And what does it mean to live as a free being? It means once you have climbed out of your own inner realms, it's like, wait, it's this hilarious thing where first there's the individual hell, and then once let's say consciousness gets out of the individual hell, it gets to the individual heaven. Once the person is in the individual heaven, they notice the collective hell, and once there's an awareness of the collective hell, then there comes the collective heaven. And the collective heaven is this beautiful idea that human beings were so fascinated by this concept of heaven and by this concept of the greatness of the creation of the creator, that it's as if an advanced civilization is to get to see the greatest potential of that which is here. That's the passion, you know. It's like, for me, the fascination went away from so many different storylines, and you know what it was? It was just like, imagine, you know, a celestial blacksmith, you know, trying to like you know, and imagine this celestial blacksmith takes this sword and slams it with a hammer. Right? And for me, the idea of the advanced civilization was that a concept where it was as if a future vision was hammering out all the inefficient beliefs I had accepted of myself in the past. It's as if when I realized what the future deserved, I could no longer just value myself in a collective process. You see, it's as if the species deserves to get to see how advanced it is before it's no longer here. This is the most important idea. So what does that mean? That means we have 100-year lifespan, this 100-year candle, right? Or this 100-year energy, right? Energy contained in this biological system with a sort of cognitive ability, right? So what does this energy do? And Mr. Within is saying, all right, energy in this unknown world, help the species in some sense consider what is its ultimate outcome. Right, so it's literally, because we're multidimensional, it's as if we don't have to just build an advanced civilization, we have to advance communication. But the whole idea follows that you can't build an advanced civilization unless you're advanced in the beginning. So it's another way of saying an advanced civilization is built by beings that in some sense behind their eyes are experiencing the most advanced states of the possibilities and probabilities of the outer realms, and in the outer realms trying to align to it. So it's as if we're like, okay, what sort of inner context to the world what sort of meaning do we give to the moment before we move in it? And similarly, Mr. Within is saying the meaning we give to the moment before we move in it is that the opportunity, it's like the same amount of energy it takes to have a low value thought or a negative thought, it's the same amount of energy it takes to have a high value and great thought. And I'm just like, there's something here, it has to perform, the great performance requires to occur, right? The great performance of the human species in the void. You see, it's who was it? Dylan Thomas was saying this to his father in his deathbed. And he said, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. And so that's the romance of the future of the human species. That the greatness of the potential of the human species is being guarded by all the egos that people think are going against the species. You know, sometimes I feel there's no such thing as evil. It's just, you know, good, forgotten good. Do you know? What does our species deserve? It deserves the most advanced civilization known to man. We deserve the most advanced state of being. Why? Because we can fathom it. We can see a better future where intelligence is giving human beings an opportunity to realize, oh my God, all the impressions I have of anybody, any creature in this three-dimensional space-time continuum internally is actually a being of multiple points in the space-time continuum. The mind is not just a single archetype and image in the moment. Even though we say the persona is a mask, the persona is the tip of an iceberg of a sort of archive of all that the attention is tunneled through to be able to keep as real in the moment. So anyways, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Rise, mankind, rise, and is the meaning of life to prepare for the unknown.